Hello and welcome to our second webinar dedicated to the new additions in oXygen XML Editor 17. In the first webinar last week, we presented an overview of oXygen 17, and after that we planned to go into some more details on specific functionality during a few other webinars. So today we will focus on user interface improvements. My name is George Bina. I'm one of the founders of Syncrosoft, the company that develops oXygen XML Editor. And I invited two of my colleagues, Sorin.
Hello,
Hi,
George.
Sorin.
Hello, everybody.
And Mihaela. Hi, Mihaela.
Hi all.
To present this webinar, while me and a few other colleagues from Syncrosoft will be available to answer your questions during the webinar. Before I will give control to Sorin to start his presentation, here it is some useful information. The most frequent question during a webinar is whether the webinar will be recorded and made available afterwards. And the answer is yes, we record this webinar and we will make the recording available on our website. Also, the recording of the first webinar is already available, the one covering the overview of new additions in version 17. If you have any questions during the webinar, please use the questions panel in your GoToWebinar interface to send them to us. There is no need to wait until the end of the webinar to ask questions. As I mentioned before, me and some of my colleagues will be able to answer questions as we go. At the end of the webinar, we have a dedicated Q&A section where we will respond live to the question received during the webinar or during that questions and answers section. In case you use Twitter, you can mark your webinar related messages with the oXygen XML hashtag, so we can easily identify your messages, and that may be another channel that you can use to ask questions. So we will monitor this oXygen XML channel as well on Twitter. That being said, I will give control to Sorin to start his presentation. Sorin?
Thank you, George. Hello again, everybody. My name is Sorin Cărbunaru. I am one of the developers here at Syncrosoft, and today I will be your main presenter in the webinar about oXygen's user interface. So I want us today to look in detail at the user interface and mainly at the improvements brought by version 17. Let me give you a brief overview of today's presentation. So we will start with how to customize the user interface, because most of us like to customize or personalize our workplace to make it enjoyable. You know, we bring a mug to our desk with a special message on it. We have some special screen wallpapers. We have maybe a photo with the wife, the kids, and the dog on the desk because we want to have a nice workplace. In a similar way, oXygen can also be made more personal and enjoyable to work with, and hopefully productivity increasing by customizing its user interface. Secondly, we will discuss about sharing the user interface layout with your team. When people work together in teams, some common needs may arise. For example, in a documentation team working in oXygen's author mode, for example, one need could be the existence of a common layout with a minimal set of views and actions helpful in the documentation process. Number 3, in the overview, we'll also have a look on color themes and how to use them. While sometimes it's just a matter of taste, in other cases it really is a must to have a special color theme. For example, if people have sight problems. Then we will go on and discuss about Retina or HiDPI or high pixel density displays and oXygen's support for this kind of displays. We have a set of new icons that are more visually appealing, that look crisp and sharp and are specially tuned for this kind of displays. This support is also extended in the framework actions icons and in document styling in author mode. And we will end today's presentation with combining styles for visual editing. How to easily combine and apply a set of alternate styles that behave like layers over one main style. So let's start today's webinar, and as George promised in the previous webinar, we won't just show you what and how things can be done, but we will also explain pretty much everything in the context of a use case, of a scenario. That is, I will be the leader of the documentation team of a company. My colleague Mihaela will be a member of this team. The project that we are working on is a public version of oXygen's user guide, which is available on GitHub. And let me show you the project in oXygen. So here we have all the data files, and we already created a layouts folder for what we will do today with customizing layouts and sharing them. And we have here in the master files folder the main data map, so one can easily access it. Moving back to our slides, the purpose in today's webinar, in our scenario, in our use case, is to share a simplified layout for an optimal teamwork. So I will develop such a simplified layout for my documentation team from our scenario, and I will commit these changes, and we will see later how these will be applied in the team's project. So let's proceed, and we will see that customizing the user interface of oXygen can be done in 3 ways. We can customize the toolbars, we can customize the views, and we can also customize the editors. When it comes to customizing the toolbars, we can move them around, we can show or hide them, and we can configure toolbars down to the action level, which is a new feature available in oXygen version 17. So let's switch to oXygen, and for our use case, remember that uh, where I am the project leader of the documentation team, and I want to simplify this layout and give it to the rest of the team. For the beginning, I will start by moving the spell checking toolbar and the validation toolbar next to each other, because they have kind of a similar use. So they are both used for validation, okay? And obviously we have some toolbars that won't be needed while documenting. So for example, we won't need this SOAP Whistle Analyzer toolbar, or we won't need to generate for example, XML schema documentation, an easy way to hide these toolbars is to right-click on them, and as you can see, the toolbar is surrounded by a border, so you can see all the actions that compose that toolbar. In our case, it's only one action. And then click on the Hide Soap toolbar action. We will do this for the soap toolbar. We will do the same thing for the documentation toolbar. But if we want to make a more advanced customization, then the new configure toolbars action from version 17 will be very helpful. One first observation is that it depends where you right-click in the toolbar area. So for example, if you right-click on a toolbar and go to configure toolbars, we will have that toolbar selected in the dialog, and the actions that compose that toolbar will be expanded. But if we right-click somewhere outside of any toolbar, then we won't have any selection. In the left column, we have all the toolbars names, and in the right column, we have a preview of each of the toolbar with the containing actions. The checkboxes from the first level in the left column allow us to show or hide specific toolbars. And if we expand a toolbar, the second level checkboxes are used to configure a certain toolbar. That is, to choose which of the actions will be available in that toolbar, which of them will compose that toolbar. Also notice the existence of this extra toolbar called My Toolbar, where you can add your favorite actions. So let's start with the actual customization. At the bottom of the dialog, we have a set of buttons which allow us to add new actions, remove some of them from a specific toolbar, or move actions inside a toolbar. We will begin with adding inside the review toolbar, which is helpful while writing documentation. So adding an action which will allow us to remove highlights made inside the document. So we have this remove highlights action, which we will add inside the toolbar, and we would like it to be just after the highlights action. So we will move this action in the proper place. The adding of new actions is available only for general actions. So that means that custom actions won't be available here, and this addition doesn't depend on the framework or the editor mode. We won't get those actions in here, only the general actions. Proceeding with our use case, the simplification of the toolbar area, we will start hiding some of the toolbars that we don't need. We will try to leave in the toolbar area only those toolbars which are helpful for writing documentation and making this job easier. For this reason, we will hide the document toolbar. We'll do the same thing with the navigation toolbar. source and XPath. Now we also want to add some other toolbars and actions, and we will start by adding this symbols toolbar, which contains the character map, and in the author styles toolbar, the CSS inspector, or the inspect styles action. And we will commit these changes, and as you can see, the toolbar has been simplified. We will just rearrange it, so now it looks nice, clean, tidy, and we only have those actions that we find helpful while writing documentation. You might have probably noticed while configuring our toolbar area the fact that we have some changes in version 17. We have a white background in that area, and we have a set of new icons with a flat look, icons that look stylish. We tried to reorganize the default configuration of the toolbars. So as you can see in the file toolbar, we have some actions added, while in the document toolbar we have some actions which have been removed. But in general, we tried to simplify the default configuration of the toolbars. Another improvement is the fact that some icons, the symbols have been changed. So now you can, for example, easily identify the associate schema action and the associate style sheet action based on the pin color from the icons in the document toolbar. As you probably already know, we use the green color for CSS files or for XSLT files. For example, here if we choose to create a new CSS file, you can see the green color used for the icon. The same goes for the XSLT. So you can make this association in your mind that the green pin is used for associating a style sheet to your XML file, while the red one is for associating a schema. We can also customize views and editors inside oXygen, not only the toolbar area. So let's have a look on what can be done about the views. We can move the views around. We can choose to auto hide them, to show or close them, to make them float, then maybe dock them back, to maximize them, or to restore to the initial size. And I will show this inside oXygen. Again, going back to our scenario, we also want to simplify the views. So we have two columns, and that might not be too good for us because we want to have some more space for editing. For this reason, we will choose to close some of the views which we don't find helpful when writing documentation. For example, we choose to close the model view as well as the elements view. And because we want to hide this right column, we will also move this attributes view, which can be very helpful. Okay, so we don't want to hide this one. We will move it to the left column, and now the entities view and the transformation view, which either are not that important, or as the transformation view will be needed probably sometime at the end of writing something, documenting something, we will choose to auto hide them. So now the editing area is bigger. We have some more text, a little bit of more text in the editing area, and it looks a bit cleaner. As I said, if we want this, we can also choose to make a view float, and we can move it somewhere else, maybe on a separate screen if we want that. And then we can dock it back to its area. Okay. Moving on, we also have some actions available for the editors. If you are in the text mode, you can split the editors, but we won't discuss about this in our today's scenario because we're focusing on writing documentation. That's usually done in author mode. And we can tile or stack editors, or we can choose to have synchronous scrolling. Moving back to oXygen, inside the window menu, we can choose to tile editors horizontally or vertically, or we can also choose to stack them just as we had them in the beginning. We can also choose to scroll synchronously if we want that. Maybe we have similar documents and we want to have a quick comparison, a quick look on these files, and we can choose to scroll synchronously to see any difference inside these documents. But I will deactivate this because it's not needed in today's use case. Another topic in today's presentation is the sharing of the user interface layout with your team. So I simplified the layout. Now I want to share it with the rest of the team, and we have two ways to do this. But first, let's see what exactly can be shared. That is what a layout file contains. As you can see from this diagram, a layout file contains all the information about views and toolbars from each of oXygen's perspectives. So nothing about the editors, only the views and the toolbars from oXygen's perspectives. Switching back to oXygen, we see that here we are already in the editor perspective, but oXygen also has a debugger perspective. This is the XSLT debugger perspective, which is almost the same with the xQuery debugger perspective. As you can see, only some labels change. And the fourth one is the database perspective. So a perspective contains a set of toolbars and views which are arranged in some way. We'll switch back to the editor perspective. The first way of sharing the layout would be for one person to export his or her layout in a layout file, and then send this layout file, for example, via email to the rest of the team, and each member would have to manually load the layout file, which is not really suitable when working with a specific project. So for today, we chose another approach. The project manager or the project leader, the team leader, can customize the user interface, simplify it just as I did, and save it at the project level. And then commit these changes, and the team would have to update the project. This is an example of how the saving of the user interface layout can be done at the project level, but we will also do this in oXygen. So now that we have our simplified layout, I will export it in the project folder, the user guide for the webinar, and here we have already created a layouts folder where we will save our layout file. We'll just call it doc team from documentation team. And the next step will be to save this layout at the project level. So we will just select this project options radio button, which will save the application layout options page at the project level, and we will load our custom layout. And it is very important to use a relative path relative to the directory, so that's why we will use the project directory editor variable, and we will go to our layout file. We will apply these changes, and now we will go to source tree, the client that we use for Git, and as you can see, the layout file is now available to commit. And I will do just that, a simplified layout for the team. Okay, and we'll commit this. Having done this, I will ask Mihaela to take control of the presentation, and she will update the project, and you will see the changes that I've done in the user interface in her oXygen. So Mihaela, please.
Thank you, Sorin. Hi all, I am Mihaela Calotescu, and I am a senior developer at Synchrosoft. I'm happy to say that I've directly contributed to the user interface improvements in this version of oXygen. I have worked directly at the configure toolbars features, and my role in this presentation is that of a documentation team member. Sorin told you what the layout information contains, how you can export it, and how you can attach the layout information to a project to be shared with your team. Now, what I want to show you is how this layout can be used and further customized by the team members. So I work, let's say that I work on the documentation project, so I already have the documentation opened in oXygen, you can see that the last change, the last update that I've made on the project was before the webinar. The layouts folder does not contain the layout file committed by Sorin, and in the preferences you can see that the layout loaded is the default layout that comes with the editor. In this layout, what I don't like as a documentation team member is that there are a lot of actions and views that I never use. For example, the SOAP toolbar, the SOAP analyzer action I never use during my documentation work. The XPath toolbar, I never work with it. I don't like that the model view is always present in my editor. Also, the actions like check spelling and validation that are content validating actions are not grouped together. And what I don't like in my work is that the toolbars are split in 3 different rows, which reduces my editing working area. So what I will do next is to update my project to get to the changes that Sorin made. So I will go to source tree, and on the project I will choose to refresh remote status, and I will get all the changes. Okay, let's go back to oXygen. You can see that when the project is updated outside the editor, oXygen asks me if I want to reload the project, and I will choose to reload it. Okay, we will wait for this reload. You can see that the layouts folder now contains the layout file that Sorin committed, and in the preferences you can see that the application layout options are updated. In this layout, I like that I have all the actions that I work with. You can see that the views are reconfigured. I do not see anymore the SOAP analyzer action, and I can easily spot the validating actions because they are grouped together, and my editing area is now bigger, and I can concentrate to my work. But there is a customization that I want to make, because in this documentation team, my work is mostly on the reviewing part. So what I want to have always visible is the review view. So I will go to Window, Show View, and I will choose the review. So I will switch. Okay, we have now the review view. But the question now is how this layout change that I've made affects the layout information stored in the project. And the answer is not at all, because as you can see in the following diagram, the layout stored together with the project is used by oXygen to retrieve the initial, and this is the keyword, the initial toolbars and views information, and then every user can customize its layout according to their personal needs. So if any of the users, after customizing the layout, wants to come back to the initial layout configuration, can use the reset layout action available in the window menu. So what oXygen does in this case is to reload all the initial information about views and toolbars that are stored in the layout file, and then use it in the oXygen layout configuration. Another action that you can use is a new action added in oXygen 17. This is the reset toolbars action that is available on the toolbars contextual menu, or you can find it in the window menu. And if you choose this action, you will have all the toolbars configuration and layout reset. That's all. Thank you. Sorry, now back to you.
Okay, thank you, Mihaela. We will continue with another topic, that is oXygen's color themes. You are probably or already accustomed to the default theme, so we won't spend too much time on it. But we have a new theme in version 17 of oXygen, a dark theme called graphite. This was a great amount of work from our team. As you can see, the theme is applied all over oXygen, in views, in editors, in the text mode, in the author mode, and in the toolbars area. We actually have a special set of icons for the graphite theme, so this was another great amount of work to design all of these icons. The graphite theme might be helpful if you enjoy working in the silence of the night with the lights turned off, so you don't want too much light from your screen, and this graphite theme will help you get what you desire. We also inherit the high contrast themes from Windows, the dark theme, also the white theme, and these are helpful for those people who have sight problems. Regarding the Windows high contrast themes, we also have some media rules that you can use in your CSS files if you want to create styles which will be applied only when Windows is set on a high contrast theme. Yet another new feature in 17 is the Retina support, or the support for high pixel density displays. This support is available in the user interface. As I said in the beginning, we have new icons, a special set of icons developed for Retina displays. Again, a great amount of work has been done in this area, so oXygen can look very nice on high pixel density screens. The support is also available in the author editing mode for your custom actions icons, and also for the images rendered in the author mode. This is just an example of the difference between the double density, double resolution icons and the standard ones. Of course, this image is a bit zoomed in, so you can see better the differences between them. And about loading images or icons, we want to say a few words. We have a naming convention for loading icons and images. For our toolbars, we have for each action a set of 4 icons. We have a normal pixel density icon, a high pixel density icon, another icon for normal pixel density with a dark theme, and another one for high pixel density with dark theme. As you can see, the high pixel density icons have a suffix in their names, @2x, and for loading the specially created icons for dark themes, like the graphite theme, the suffix is _dark, and you can combine these suffixes for loading the icon for high pixel density screen with a dark theme. Another feature, a great one in oXygen 17, is the layered styling. You can select one main style for the document and combine it with multiple alternate styles that behave like layers, thus making it very easy for you to choose the desired rendering of a document by providing a huge number of view options, of rendering options. In other words, the great thing about this feature is that you can use a small number of CSS files to render a document in thousands, and I mean literally thousands of different ways. Without this feature, you would have needed a CSS file for each desired rendering. So that means thousands of CSS files, which is not an option. This support is available for any XML document, but it comes as or the only framework that comes with built-in support is the DIDA framework. And this, as you can see, this option is already on for the DIDA framework, and we will switch to oXygen to show you just where exactly that option is. So we will go to the documentation type association option page and choose the DIDA framework, and in the author tab and the CSS tab here we have the list of already available styles which come with oXygen 17. We have the main styles here in the upper part, and we have the alternate styles in the lower part. You can define your own styles and add them here to get the preferred rendering of your document. I will close this, and let's switch back to the author mode in our documents, and I will close that one. The layered styles are available in this styles menu. For showing an example, we will choose the trip journal style as a main style, and now we will add some alternate layered styles over the main one. I will choose to show the hints Okay, and now we have a set of boxes with static text which explains us what exactly should be written in specific parts of the document, uh, thus guiding us when authoring, or in our case when writing documentation. And let's add a second alternate style, the one that displays the inline actions. Again, another rendering helpful for guided authoring. And as you can see, we have these actions here. You can click on them and they will insert specific elements. You can also close or delete those, remove those elements if you don't want them anymore. We have an example here in the slides also, but we have already shown how the layered styling can be used. And with this topic, we have concluded our today's presentation, our today's webinar. So thank you for joining us, and we wait for your questions. George?
Thank you, Sorin. Thank you, Mihaela, for these interesting things that you presented us. We have a couple of questions already. So while you can send additional questions, let me go through these questions. So question was related to saving the layout file at the and also placing that information at the project level, so to be stored in the project. In the oXygen options, Sorin placed that save the layout to a file and also place that to a project. The question was if global options can be used also for storing this information. Of course, if you set this preference page to be global, this information will be saved in the global options and it will be applied. So that layout file will be the default layout for all your projects that do not specify a specific layout information at the project level. Another question was whether it is possible to specify a URL for the layout file, and unfortunately that is not possible. But in general, it is better to keep maybe the layout together with the project, as in this use case that we presented. And also, if you want to have that remote, it is possible to maybe map a shared drive or something like that and refer to the layout file from that shared drive. Another question just came in is I would like to use the desktop layout for the browser application. Can this be done? By the browser application, I will guess that refers to the web-based editing that we also provide in oXygen, but that is part of the SDK, and it's a completely different thing. And being part of the SDK, basically you can build your own application using the SDK, and that application has full control on how the components will be laid out on the screen. And one other thing that is interesting is that while this layout information is stored and shared with the project, so shared with an entire team. Also, almost any other preference information, any other option can be shared with your team. And maybe Sorin can show us that for the user guide project, we already have like the spell checking options and the formatting. So if you click on the spell check page, maybe we can see there that there is a list with elements that should be ignored for spell checking, like the code block, code phrase, variable name, shortcuts, and so on. So all that information, and also available dictionaries to spell check the project, all that information is defined, and all the authors that use this project to work on the documentation project will get this option. So that storing information and options at the project level is a very nice way to make sure you get all these settings across the entire team. Can I remove some icons and actions so that users never use them? Of course, you can customize, as Sorin covered at the beginning, you can customize the toolbar completely and save that to the layout information. It is also possible to write an oXygen plugin that will be able to reject a number of user interface components, and they will not be available at all. Right, so we have a plugin that is called a startup plugin, and if you implement that, you will receive a callback with any action or any option page that oXygen is about to create, and you can return true or false or something like that to decide whether you want that to be available or not. And also data-specific actions are built by the customization that we have for data. So each framework like data, Dogbook, HTML, and so on, they contribute author-specific actions in the visual mode. And that also can be customized, and you can decide. We have a visual builder for the user interface, so you can customize exactly what actions are available there. Another question is, what if I do not want users to deactivate the change tracking option? So as I mentioned, maybe you can then remove that action by using this startup plugin, and then the track changes state of a document is can be set also within the document. So then you can enable track changes for a document, for instance, and send them to them, and all the changes that they will make will have track changes. We also have an SDK. So as part of the SDK, we have this oXygen web app, which provides the browser-based editing, but we, as with an HTML5 and JavaScript user interface, but we also have what we call the author component, which gives you access to the editing support from oXygen, and you can put that as part of your own application. And then you can fully control anything from that. Even with the plugin, you can enforce additional options and make sure that they are not changed, let's say. Another question mentions that I'm not sure I understand what advantages layer styles provide over simply having each of your alternate CSS render and modify the main CSS. So the difference is that for data, for instance, the alternate style sheets were alternatives to the main style sheet. So if you provided, let's say, 10 different views over the document, 10 different possibilities to render a document, you had 10 style sheets, right? While because you choose one and that was applied on the document, even no matter if that was main or alternate. So the alternate replaced completely a main style sheet. While now we can you can select one of the main style sheets like in the same way, so it's only one of the main style sheets, but the alternate style sheets can be turned on or off. So that means you have 2 at power n possible possibilities provided by n alternate style sheets. And I think I computed we have 9 main style sheets and 8 alternate style sheets. So we have about 2,304 different possibilities to see a data topic using this mechanism. While otherwise there will be, 9 plus 8 instead of 9 multiplied with 2 at power 8 possibilities to see the document. So it gives a lot more options, which are also in the same time very easy to select. Yes, so there's a follow-up question that says, so you mean you have 3 alternate style sheets that do specific things and you can add on top of the main one? Yes, exactly. Like Sorin presented, you select the main style sheet to trip journal, for instance, and then you add hints and you add inline actions, and then you have both hints and inline actions visible on top of the main style sheet, and so on. So you can choose on or off any of the alternate style sheets. Okay. So we have 2 more minutes, and I would like to I would like to just quickly to thank you all for joining us today, and thank you Sorin and Mihaela again for presenting. And I would like to mention some of the upcoming events. We have 4 more webinars dedicated to oXygen 17 during the following 4 weeks. Every Wednesday at the same time as today, 11 a.m. EDT. So please join us again to find out more about quick fixes next week, refactoring XML documents, the new data additions, and the new HTML5 JavaScript based XML authoring that works across platforms and devices. So that works being HTML5 and JavaScript based, works also on mobile devices as well as on desktop devices as an adaptive interface. So it's both desktop and mobile friendly. At the beginning of June, we will be in London, where we have the oXygen users meetup on Friday, June 5th, just before XML London, and after that, we will exhibit and present a session at the XML London conference. So thanks again, and hope to meet you again either virtually at one of the upcoming webinars or in person at one of the conferences we attend. Goodbye.